Hi everyone, and welcome to the first tutorial on Android development. Using OpenGL ES, we will learn how to load a triangle onto our Android device. Let's get started. First things first, we're going to need an Android application, so let's go create that. Select Android Application Project, put in our names, Tutorial 1. Select the targeted SDK. I'm going to uncheck the create activity as we're going to create our own activity in a second. I'm going to keep my custom launcher icon. Just going to upload that. Hit finish. Now in our project we're just going to create a new package. And in that package we're going to create 3 different classes. First one being main activity. And then we're going to have our renderer. And finally our shader. Now going back to our main activity, we are going to first create a surface view. Oh wait, no we're not. We are going to make it extend activity. Import that. Now we're going to create our surface view. Control-Shift-O to import that. Now we get onto our first function, our onCreate function. Basically this function is going to be called when our application is loaded. We're just going to initialize the surface view, the client version, and the renderer now. Don't worry about the error for now, will be fixed when we go and complete our renderer. And the last thing in this function to do is just set the current view. Now we move on to our second function. Well, actually the next 2 are going to be very small functions. Basically an onPause function and an onResume. basically these functions are basically going to tell our surface to copy the function that its superclass already has pre-built. Just going to copy that and paste, and then just turn these into fours. And if I can spell correctly, that will be our main activity complete. Let's now move on to our shader code. So to start off with, we're going to put in the code for our vertex shader and our fragment shader. So let's do the vertex shader first. We're going to have a vector 4 for our position. Its position, sorry. And then it's going to have a void main. Which basically is just going to set the position of that vertex. We'll just close that function now. And that rounds up the vertex shader code. Now to move on to the fragment shader. We're going to have a uniform vec4 for our color. We're also going to have a void main here, which will set our color of the vertex. Nice simple shaders these are. And just close that function. And that rounds up the shader's code. Now to create our object program. And our handlers. Make sure that these are public, as we're going to be wanting to use them in other classes. One for the position and one for the color. Now to move on to our first function. This will basically initialize and create our program. Our object program, that is. We're going to initialize the shaders, and we're going to use a function that we're going to create in a second, called load shader. Sorry. going to do one for the vertex shader and one for the fragment shader. Now we're going to initialize and generate our object program. And we're going to attach our shaders. And we're just going to link the program. Now we're just going to set the acquisition of the handlers. Basically getting the set position and the set color. Now we're just going to tell OpenGL ES to use our object program. And that is that for that function. Now we are going to create our load shader function. Which will take in what type of shader and will take in the string that we're going to pass through. So basically our shader code. Just going to create a shader. And then we're just going to get the shader source and compile it. And then we're just going to return our shader. And that is our shader class complete. Okay, so now let's go ahead and create our renderer. First of all, you're going to want to import the Android OpenGL GL surface view. Make sure you have that, because we're going to make our renderer implement it. Or implement its renderer, sorry. And we're just going to add unimplemented methods. So you're going to end up with an onSurface created, onSurface changed, onDrawFrame. So let's go ahead and just get rid of all these overrides. Just don't need them. And let's do our onSurface created. Before we do that, let's just add we need a float buffer. This float buffer, will basically hold our array of vertices. Okay, so now we got that done. Let's just create our program. There we go. Need to now enable our vertex array. And now we just need to put in our actual vertices, so where it's actually going to be displayed on screen, their coordinates. So just need a float array for our vertices. And for the bottom left, we're just going to be 0.0f, 1.0f, 0.0f, and for the top, we're going to do 0.0f, 0.0f, 0.0f. And for the bottom right, we're going to do 1.0f, 1.0f, 0.0f. And remember to put a semicolon after that. And then we're just going to generate our vertex buffer. This is going to be using a function that we're going to create in a little while. And that is that for the onCreated. Now we're just going to move down to onSurface changed, and we just got to basically update our viewport. And there we have that. And finally, well, not finally, for the last of the automated functions, we're just going to clear the color just put it to a white. And we're going to set the color of our vertices. Using a uniform 4F, so 4 floats. And I'm just going to make that a red. Make sure the last one is 1.0F, because that is, if I'm correct, that should be its alpha. Okay, now we're just going to specify which vertex buffer to use. Using a pointer. Just going to use our position handle, and we're going to specify its size, its type, its normalized, stride and offset. Want the type as a float, GL float that is. Normalized is going to be false. Stride is going to be 0. And its pointer is going to be our vertex buffer. And we're just going to specify how it's going to be drawn. We're going to be using GL triangles. All needs to be capital, sorry. The first position will be at 0, and the count will be at 3. And that is that function complete. Now to move on to a function that we're going to define ourselves, and that is going to be our make float buffer. Which is going to take in an array of floats. So we just need a float buffer here to hold our array. I want to allocate directly. Just going to pass in our array length times 4, so we can give in each of the colors. Then we want to make sure that they're in order. Make it native. And we want to make it so that as a float buffer. Lastly, we just need to put that. And last but not least, just return that float buffer. And there we have it. Our code complete. Now, even though the code side of our application is complete, if you decided to run the application, you wouldn't actually see anything on your Android device. This is because you're not actually telling your Android device to launch or give you a way of launching your application on your Android device. So what we need to do is we need to go into our Android manifest. We need to go all the way down to application nodes, and we need to add a new activity. And where it's got its name variable, you want to browse and just add your main activity. Once you've done that, we need to add a intent filter to this, and then we need to add two things to this intent filter. One action, which will be main, which will be Android intent.action.main. That's what you need to find in the list. And then we also need to add a category, and this will be launcher. So find android.intent.category.launcher. Once you have this and you save it, you should be able to launch your application on your device and see your triangle. Once you load your application, you should see a triangle in the top right hand corner of your screen. That means that your job is done and that it has worked. Next tutorial we'll be going on to make a square instead, and then progress on through there. Thank you for watching. See you next time.